What is up? Gotta make some more HVAC related content here. I'm always waiting to find, the good ghetto rooftops, but those sometimes come far and few between. Sometimes I forget, what I've already filmed and haven't filmed, but thought I should start including maybe some stuff that isn't necessarily ghetto rooftops or questionable thereof, but just some interesting buildings, curious buildings, or maybe even some facilities that I've visited myself. Here's one that I visited years ago when they first did the startup and had some issues as it was opening up. It's got a couple surgery rooms here, and for those they use some of those Daikin Rebel units. This place is closed today, so it'll be a good day to kind of check this stuff out. So Daikin Rebels are basically the Daikin VRV systems within package units. So these two brown units right here, one's for each surgery room. And so they're just packaged. They got do the basic setup. They would get their factory, startup done from the local rep and things like that. But they did this on several surgical centers, and there was issues, actually similar issues on several of these facilities. This was the second facility to give issues, which was some voodoo faults, making you kind of chase some issues that weren't there. And I forget what the exact fault was, but it said something like pressure. I can't remember what it was, but I think it was making you think it was like the pressure transducer or pressure fault. And these, again, are VRF, or VRV as Daikin likes to call them. Inverter, compressor, inverter, everything in here, all the motors. And it would shut down on this fault. And it had like this Microtech 3 controller system, something like that. And as I find some of this stuff in my old documents, I'll throw them on the screen. But it would stop on this fault, it'd be a hard stop, and until you go there and reset it. Resetting the power would restart the systems, but as soon as they went down, they would call freaking out, of course. So this was the second facility doing it shortly after the first one was starting to give us these random problems. It would happen like every 4 or 5 weeks, it seemed, or something. So you would reset it and you couldn't reproduce the problem. Like, what the heck's going on? So this was the second one to happen. And I remember it kind of occurred to me, like, wait a minute, these are only happening like on these medical places, and it's happening where I realized, I think they do generator transfer switch testing, and I discovered that these units are being powered by generators. So I remember calling like somebody in the office. I'm like, that other facility, the other medical place. I'm like, I forgot what I was asking. I go, they also had VRVs, didn't they? I go, what were they? He goes, oh yeah, Daikin Rebels. I'm like, I think we got a common denominator here. And what it was the generators. And I go over here to the wall. You're talking, this is like 6-7 years ago now. Go over here and look down, man. I'm like, is there a generator here? Oh yeah, there's a generator here. I find out, yep, these two systems, the Daikin VRVs, are on a transfer switch on those generators. Oh look, it's running right now. So what it does is during their testing, not power outages, they were due every month, no matter what, these facilities will cycle to generator test. And what they do is start it up and then switch it, and the test will switch it after the generator's already started. In a real situation, your power actually goes out. The power would go out to this, and then the generator would start, and then it would switch once the generator was stable. And that could take like 10-15 seconds easy. But when you do a test, you start the generator and then it slams the switch over. So it's like milliseconds of an interruption. So these Microtech 3 controllers would not realize that the power was cycling. It would just see a deviation in the sensor values, and it would just immediately, I'm surprised they would trip so fast, but immediately say, oh, the switch is like an invalid signal or whatever, and it would hard stop the unit. Crazy. And so I do believe that on the third location that we went to, and I figured it out by this place, so the third place realized what was going on, and then would inform the facility and then showed them where the breakers were, and they could just turn them off and back on after they did the switch test. And we didn't have to come out. We didn't have to pay for a service call. But I think I added like a ICM 3-phase monitor, set it very sensitive, put like a couple minute, 3 minute, I think, delay before it would restart, close the contacts when the power was good. And then that would basically, I was interrupting the 24 volts feeding the Microtech 3 controller, and that would give it a fresh reboot, so it would basically restart itself. And then I noticed, like on the 4th or 5th facility I went to, they people started optioning in 3-phase monitors, or maybe Daikin was just including them. I'm not sure there. I just noticed they were on the newer facilities after that. So that was fun. So obviously you're not going to see much inside these. These have economizers. Everything's electronic. Like I said, it's got the controller. It's got VFDs and inverter boards. The compressor inverter board's inside that external panel right there. So, and I think that's where it was. You see the fans running on this one too right now. And it does have, I believe, some supply air blowing through there to kind of help it cool the inverter board. So just think of LG or Mitsubishi or all that kind of stuff, except for it's just on package unit. Now these other units here are Daikin. Daikin bought out Goodman, and then now Daikin slaps their stickers on Goodman stuff. But the rest of this facility, I mean, this is apples to oranges. This is, for Daikin, this is their bread and butter. This is their high-tech, fancy awesomeness, all the bells and whistles. And then they slap their sticker on this, like basically low-grade, wannabe commercial residential type of unit here. This is like a, almost in the footprint of a Carrier unit here, but it's not. Just generic package units, very generic. I think this is when they still had the blower belt issues on these that would always break. They were guaranteed to break. If you want to see what I'm talking about, look up videos such as like my, what is it called? No Holds Barred, Goodman versus Train or something like that, because it was a facility that had these and Trains on the same rooftop, so it was a good comparison. You kind of see just the difference in grade of construction, on the blower. So these are belt drives, and the belt drive, they put like little zip screws to hold down the metal bracket that this 1 horsepower or even bigger motor is bolted down to, and then they would always break. It was just like the most ridiculous stuff. So just very entry-level package units right there. So most of the building got really low-level units, but then the operating room's got these high-end Daikins. So, pretty interesting. Oh, and then it has a split system. I'm pretty sure it's probably Daikin too. I'm not sure who makes these Daikin ones. I wouldn't be surprised if they're made by Gree or one of those, because there's a couple main manufacturers that make these. I mean, it could be. I mean, even Carrier Medea almost looks like this. They still are all looking alike after a while. Carrier Medea has the curved top though, so this could be Gree or one of those other brands. But there's a couple main manufacturers, and most of these people don't make their own. They just kind of slap their stickers on it. They're all very similar as far as the ductless stuff goes. And that one's running, so I have too much issue with that. I've had some issues on some Daikins on another rooftop, and I had to do some troubleshooting on that stuff. And actually, there was 2 units like that were similar, and it's hard to kind of find out on a communication issue if it's actually the indoor unit, like a high wall in this particular case, or if it's the outdoor board. And I'm not aware of like whatever kind of service tool you can get for them, but I put an oscilloscope on it and kind of saw how the good one was working. I saw the sine wave, the high voltage, power, and I think it actually comes from the indoor unit, if I'm recalling. And then the outdoor unit kind of like on the zero cross, they kind of throw on their data. It's kind of weird, but I kind of watched how the good one worked, and then kind of saw where it seemed to be the outdoor board not doing its thing, and then I replaced the outdoor board and it was fixed. So I don't know if that was luck or whatever, but I had a pretty good hunch. If you look in all the troubleshooting guides for ductless, often you go down through the flow chart for troubleshooting, it'll tell you to replace like the board, like the outdoor board for example, and it'll say, is it now communicating correctly? Yes, no. And if you go to no, it's like replace the indoor board. That is literally the steps. So you wind up replacing parts. Some techs just order both, just because they don't know what else to do. So anyway, that's the kind of story with this place. Pretty interesting units there, and pretty interesting issue. And maybe if anybody's seeing this video and they've worked on Daikin Rebels and they're on a place that's by chance got a generator and transfer switch, and they're getting some weird fault, and hopefully I'll throw it on screen if I find what it was in my old notes, but what the fault was. But and you're chasing your tail because you're looking for faults that aren't real. That might be it. So yeah, generator, running these suckers off of that. And these things always like stuff like that, don't they? Anyway, I might go find some other places to film, but after this one, forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Catch you guys later.